Officials at the Department of Tourism and Sport have been directed to engage with Irish Ferries after the company warned it's unlikely to operate a service between Rosslare and France next year. Irish Ferries said a majority of its customers have a clear preference for what it described as the more central location and easy access of Dublin. As a result, the new WB Yeats ship will operate between Dublin and Cherbourg for up to 4 days a week. I asked Eoghan Corry, editor of Travel Extra, what lies behind the decision.
A lot of uncertainty, Brian. Since the WBH was first commissioned, they talked about Ireland to France rather than Rosslare to France as being the scheduled route. Now, one of the things is that, as Irish Ferries said in the statement, Dublin is the preference of a lot of their passengers. A lot of them come from the north, it's closer. And the other thing is that with the extra speed that the WB8, it's actually not that longer a sailing. It's only less than half an hour longer. So this was probably all in their plans. But then a lot of uncertainty arose. And they had, of course, very well publicised problems last year.
Getting the ship into commission, they had to postpone planned sailings in the late summer. But what's the situation? I was going to ask you in relation to freight, because freight is an important element in these sailings, isn't it?
Freight is where the action is, and freight really is where our ferry companies make their money. Passenger services spike outrageously during the summer. The demand goes up way beyond capacity, but also it leaves the ships, makes it very, very hard to plan out the life of a ship. And over the 10 months, other 10 months of the year, freight is where the action is going to be. And of course, this is the other factor, and it's one of the reasons why we don't have a commitment even that they're staying away from Rosslare, is that nobody's quite sure what's going to happen with freight as of March 29th and Brexit.
So is there thinking here that if freight becomes increasingly important and demand for a direct connection to the continent is increased, then it's commercially more advantageous to bring that freight directly into Dublin rather than Rosslare?
Without a doubt, freight is going to become the big story of the summer. We already have Brittany Ferries opening a Cork to Santander line, which would be, which really wouldn't have been on the horizon until quite recently, because even if Brexit gets managed through the uncertainty that we are facing at the moment, the ferries companies will always be looking at direct options to the continent as being very, very important and more important than ever before. So there is a likelihood that, as I say, Irish Ferries haven't committed to actually ending the Rosslare service, but there is a likelihood that freight is part of this decision, and avoiding what's called the land bridge over the UK is becoming more important for ferry companies, including Irish Ferries.
What about the impact of this if the service is in the event cancelled? The impact of this on tourism, on visitor numbers to the southeast? How important is the link to Rosslare in terms of bringing in visitors to that part of the country?
It is very, very important for Rosslare. There's going to be a big impact on the southeast. But the way that Irish Ferries would look at their outbound traffic in particular is that this is far more convenient than the Rosslare's embarkation point.
I know Minister of State at the Department of Tourism and Sport, Brendan Griffin, has asked his officials to engage with Irish Ferries. Is there anything you think might persuade them to stick with the service? Anything that he and his department could say?
There's a lot of things that might come into play, including guarantees from local tourism interests, and also pressure could be brought from various, but the decision is going to be commercial in the end. How important is freight? What happens with Brexit? And really, is the Rosslare service on a store ship going to be able to compete or give the sort of extra fill that Irish Ferries will need? They took a €7 million hit last year on the delay of WBH and a €6 million hit from the less well-publicised problems to Ulysses, and their next new ship is not due until 2020. So it will ultimately be a commercial decision.
Eoghan Corry of Travel Extra.